They say money can't buy happiness, but the lack of it can certainly buy you a hell of a lot of misery. Nancy Sterling spent 5 years scrubbing the floors of the Thorne family mansion, treated worse than a stray dog by the husband she adored and the mother-in-law who despised her. On their 5th anniversary, instead of a gift, they gave her a garbage bag and kicked her onto the rainy streets of Seattle to make room for a pregnant mistress. What they didn't know was that 3 hours prior, a lawyer had been frantically searching for Nancy. The ink was dry on a will that would turn the homeless housewife into the owner of the very bank holding her husband's mortgage. This is the story of the most brutal revenge served cold. The rain in Seattle didn't just fall, it felt like it was trying to erase the city. Inside the sprawling, yet slightly decaying estate of the Thorne family in the Queen Anne district, Nancy Sterling was on her knees. She wasn't praying. She was scrubbing a scuff mark off the Italian marble floor of the foyer, a mark left by her mother-in-law, Beatrice Thorne's muddy Jimmy Choo heel. "Mr. Spot," a voice drawled from the staircase. Nancy looked up, brushing a stray lock of brown hair from her sweaty forehead. Beatrice stood there, draped in a silk robe that cost more than Nancy's entire life prior to marriage. Beatrice was 60, but with enough Botox to look a surprised 45. "I'm cleaning it now, Mother," Nancy said, her voice hoarse. She had been cooking since 5 a.m. It was her 5th wedding anniversary with Marcus, and she wanted everything to be perfect. "Don't call me Mother," Beatrice snapped, descending the stairs. "You are a guest in this house, Nancy. A long overstayed guest. The only reason Marcus hasn't tossed you out is because he has a soft heart for strays. But tonight, well, tonight is special." Nancy's heart fluttered, ignoring the insult. Tonight is special. She hoped Marcus had finally planned something. For 5 years, Nancy had been the invisible wife. She came from nothing, an orphan raised in the foster system of Ohio, and fell in love with Marcus Thorne, the heir to Thorne Logistics. She thought it was a Cinderella story. It turned out to be a horror movie where Cinderella is the unpaid maid. By 7 p.m. the dining room was set. Nancy had prepared Marcus's favorite, beef Wellington with a truffle reduction. She had worn her only nice dress, a faded blue cocktail number she'd bought at a thrift store 3 years ago. The front door opened. Marcus walked in. He was handsome, in that sharp, angular way that suggests money, but hides weakness. He shook his umbrella, not caring that the water splashed onto the floor Nancy had just dried. "Marcus, happy anniversary," Nancy started, stepping forward for a hug. He sidestepped her. "Not now, Nancy. I have a headache." He walked straight to the liquor cabinet and poured a double scotch. Beatrice entered from the living room, smiling, a rare, predatory sight. "Is she here yet, Marcus?" "She's parking," Marcus muttered, downing the drink. Nancy froze. "She? Who is coming to dinner?" The doorbell rang. It wasn't a polite ring. It was a demanding, insistent buzz. Beatrice practically skipped to the door. She threw it open to reveal a woman who was everything Nancy wasn't. Blonde, statuesque, and dripping in diamonds. She wore a tight red dress that accentuated a very visible, rounded baby bump. "Jessica, darling," Beatrice shrieked, embracing her. "Come in out of the rain. You mustn't catch a cold, not in your condition." Nancy stood by the dining table, her hands trembling. She recognized her. Jessica Vane, the daughter of a local real estate tycoon. Marcus had dated her briefly before meeting Nancy. "What is she doing here?" Nancy whispered. Jessica waddled into the dining room, looking at Nancy with a mixture of pity and disgust. "Oh, honey, you're still here. Marcus said you'd be gone by 6. Nancy looked at her husband. Marcus wouldn't meet her eyes. He was staring at the beef Wellington as if it were a bomb. "Marcus?" Nancy asked, her voice breaking. Marcus finally turned. His face wasn't apologetic. It was annoyed. "Nancy, look, this isn't working. It hasn't worked for years. You don't fit in. You never did. You embarrass Mother at Garlus. You don't know which fork to use. You're plain." "I love you," Nancy said, the tears starting to spill. "I cook for you. I clean this house. I take care of your mother." "We have maids for that, Nancy," Beatrice interjected, pouring Jessica a glass of sparkling water. "We need a legacy. We need an heir. And you—" She gestured vaguely at Nancy's stomach. "You are barren." It was a low blow. They had been trying for 3 years. The doctors said it was stress. "Jessica is carrying my son," Marcus said, his voice gaining strength now that his mother was backing him up. "My heir. The Thorne legacy needs to continue, and I need a wife who can help me secure the merger with the Kensington Group. Jessica's father can make that happen." He reached into his briefcase and pulled out a thick manila envelope. He tossed it onto the table, right next to the anniversary dinner. "Divorce papers," Marcus said. "Sign them. I'm generous. I'm giving you $5,000 cash. That's more than you've ever seen in your life." "I don't want money," Nancy sobbed. "I want my husband." Jessica laughed. It was a cruel, tinkling sound. "Oh, please, have some dignity. You're pathetic. He's sleeping with me. He loves me. You were just a placeholder until he found someone of his own caliber." Nancy looked around the room. The opulent chandelier, the cold marble, the sneering faces of Beatrice and Jessica, and the cowardly face of Marcus. Something inside her snapped. Not a loud snap, but the quiet breaking of a heavy chain. "I won't sign," Nancy whispered. Beatrice's eyes narrowed. "Then you leave with nothing. Get out." "It's raining," Nancy said. "It's pouring outside. I have nowhere to go." "That sounds like a you problem," Jessica smirked. "Marcus, get her out. Her cheap perfume is making me nauseous." Marcus sighed, walked over, and grabbed Nancy by the arm. He wasn't gentle. He dragged her toward the door. Nancy didn't fight. She was in shock. "Here!" Beatrice shouted, throwing a black garbage bag at her. "I packed your rags earlier. Don't come back." Marcus opened the heavy oak door. The wind howled, blowing rain into the foyer. "Goodbye, Nancy," Marcus said emotionlessly. He shoved her. She stumbled, her heel catching on the wet stone step, and she fell hard onto the paved driveway. The door slammed shut behind her. The lock clicked. Nancy lay there in the mud, the freezing rain soaking her thrift store dress instantly. She looked up at the window. Inside, she saw the warm glow of the chandelier. She saw Marcus pouring wine for Jessica. She saw Beatrice laughing. They were eating her beef Wellington. She screamed, a guttural, raw scream of agony that was swallowed by the thunder. She grabbed the black garbage bag, stood up on trembling legs, and began to walk down the long, dark driveway toward the iron gates. She had $50 in her pocket, and no future, or so she thought. Nancy walked for an hour. Her shoes were ruined, her feet bleeding. She reached the bus stop on Queen Anne Avenue, shivering violently. It was 9:30 p.m. She sat on the metal bench, huddled under the plastic shelter, which offered little protection from the Seattle squall. She looked like a madwoman. Wet hair plastered to her face, mascara running down her cheeks, clutching a garbage bag. Passers-by averted their eyes. A group of teenagers laughed at her from a passing car. I should just end it, the dark thought crossed her mind. I have no family, no degree, no home. A pair of headlights cut through the darkness, blindingly bright. A car was slowing down. It wasn't a taxi, it wasn't a bus. It was a sleek, midnight blue Bentley Mulsanne. It purred to a stop right in front of the bus shelter. Nancy tensed. She gripped her bag tighter. Was this someone coming to mock her? Or worse? The rear door opened. A man stepped out, holding a large black umbrella. He was older, perhaps in his late 60s, dressed in an impeccably tailored three-piece charcoal suit. He didn't look like a predator. He looked like a butler from a bygone era, or a very expensive lawyer. He walked straight up to her, ignoring the puddles soaking his polished Oxfords. "Mrs. Nancy Thorne?" he asked. His voice was British, refined, and steady. Nancy shivered. It's Sterling. I'm using my maiden name again," she chattered, her teeth clicking. "Who are you?" The man's face softened. He bowed slightly. "My name is Arthur Pennington. I represent the estate of the late Silas Rutherford." Nancy blinked, wiping rain from her eyes. "I don't know a Silas Rutherford." "No," Arthur said gently. "You wouldn't. He was forbidden from contacting you, but he knew you. He watched you from afar your entire life." "Mrs. Sterling, please, come into the car. It is warm and we have much to discuss. You are hypothermic." "I'm not getting in a car with a stranger," Nancy said, though her resolve was weakening with every shiver. Arthur sighed and reached into his jacket pocket. He pulled out a photograph. It was old, black and white. It showed a young woman holding a baby. "This is your mother, Sarah," Arthur said, "and that baby is you. The man taking the photo was Silas, your grandfather." Nancy stared at the photo. She had one just like it, the only possession she had from the mother who died in a car crash when Nancy was 2. "My grandfather was a mechanic in Ohio," Nancy whispered. "That's what the foster agency said." "The foster agency was paid to say that," Arthur corrected, "to protect you from your family's enemies. But Silas Rutherford has passed away as of 4:00 p.m. this afternoon. The protection protocols are lifted, and his will has been activated." Arthur extended a hand. "Please, Nancy, let me take you out of the rain." Nancy looked at the dark street, then at the warm interior of the Bentley. She had nothing left to lose. She took his hand. Inside, the car smelled of rich leather and expensive cologne. Arthur handed her a thick wool blanket and instructed the driver to head to the Fairmont Olympic Hotel. "Not a hospital?" Nancy asked, wrapping herself tightly. "We have a private doctor waiting for you in the presidential suite," Arthur said. He opened a briefcase on his lap. "We have urgent business. The wolves will be circling by morning." "I don't understand," Nancy said. "Who was he? Why did he leave me here?" "Silas Rutherford," Arthur began, "was the founder and majority shareholder of Rutherford Global Holdings, shipping, pharmaceuticals, real estate, and banking. He was a man of immense wealth and immense paranoia. Your mother ran away to marry a man he disapproved of. When they died, he wanted to bring you home, but there were threats against the family. He hid you to keep you safe." Arthur pulled out a document stamped with a red wax seal. "He regretted it every day," Arthur continued. "He had investigators tracking you. He knew about the foster homes. He knew about Marcus Thorne." Arthur's voice dripped with disdain when he said Marcus's name. "He was planning to approach you next week. His heart gave out before he could." Nancy felt dizzy. "So, he left me some money?" Arthur looked at her with a serious expression. "Nancy, Silas Rutherford didn't just leave you some money. You are the sole heir." "Heir to what?" "To everything," Arthur said calmly. "Rutherford Global Holdings, the real estate portfolio in Manhattan, London, and Tokyo, the private island in the Caribbean, and the liquid assets." "How much?" Nancy whispered. Arthur adjusted his glasses. "The final valuation is still being processed, but conservatively. You are currently worth approximately $24 billion. Nancy stopped breathing. The car went silent. 24 billion? Give or take a few hundred million, Arthur said. But there is a complication that involves your husband. Nancy laughed, a hysterical, broken sound. My ex-husband. He threw me out an hour ago. I know, Arthur said grimly. We have the house under surveillance. We saw. He pulled out a file marked Thorn Logistics. Marcus Thorn's company is bleeding money, Arthur explained. He has been cooking the books for 2 years to hide his gambling debts and the cost of maintaining his lifestyle and his mistress. He is desperate for a loan, a massive loan to save Thorn Logistics from bankruptcy. Nancy's eyes widened. He mentioned a merger with the Kensington Group. The Kensington Group is a subsidiary of Rutherford Global, Arthur said, a small, cold smile playing on his lips. Marcus applied for a $500 million bailout loan last week. The board was going to reject it. It's a bad investment. Arthur looked deep into Nancy's eyes. However, as of 4 p.m. today, you are the board, Nancy. You own the bank he is begging for money. You own the mortgage on the house he just threw you out of. Nancy sat back against the leather seat. The image of Beatrice sneering, of Marcus shoving her, of Jessica laughing. It all flooded back, but this time, instead of pain, she felt something else, a heat in her chest. I own the mortgage? She asked softly. The bank holds the note. He is 3 months behind on payments. You could foreclose tomorrow, Arthur said. Or we could approve the loan. Nancy looked at Arthur, confused. Why would I help him? Because, Arthur said, if you foreclose now, he loses everything and blames the bank. He walks away a victim. But if you approve the loan, you become his partner. You become his boss. You can control every move he makes. You can make him dance until his feet bleed. And he won't even know it's you pulling the strings. Nancy turned to look out the window. The rain was still falling, but it didn't look sad anymore. It looked like it was washing the world clean. He thinks I'm trash, Nancy whispered. He thinks I'm nothing. So, Arthur asked, clicking his gold pen. What are your instructions, Madam Chairwoman? Do we destroy him tonight, or do we play with him? Nancy turned back to Arthur. Her tears were gone. Her eyes were hard as diamonds. Approve the loan, she said, but put a clause in the contract. The new investor requires a silent representative to oversee the restructuring of Thorn Logistics. Someone who has absolute veto power over all company expenses. And who will that representative be? Arthur asked. Me, Nancy said. But he can't know it's me. Not yet. I need a new face. I need a new wardrobe. I need to learn how to be a Rutherford. Arthur smiled. I have already booked the best stylists in Paris and a team of business tutors. We will tell him the representative is a shy, reclusive consultant named, let's say, Ms. Vengeance. No, Nancy said. My mother's middle name, Sophia. Tell him he answers to Sophia. The Bentley pulled up to the Fairmont. Doormen rushed to open the doors with umbrellas. One more thing, Arthur, Nancy said as she stepped out, not into the rain, but under the protection of her new empire. Yes, ma'am. Find out when Marcus and Jessica are planning their wedding. I believe they are announcing the date next week, Arthur replied. Good, Nancy said, tightening the blanket around her shoulders like a royal cape. I want to send a gift. For the first 48 hours, Nancy didn't sleep. She sat in the presidential suite of the Fairmont, surrounded by legal documents that Arthur explained to her one by one. She learned that Rutherford Global wasn't just a company, it was an ecosystem. She owned shipping lanes in the Pacific, lithium mines in Nevada, and most crucially, the First Sovereign Bank of Seattle, the very institution holding Marcus's fate in its hands. "You need to disappear, Nancy," Arthur said on the third morning. He was sipping Earl Grey tea, looking at her critically. "The press will find out about Silas's death soon. If they connect you to him before you are ready, the sharks will eat you alive. You need armor." "I don't want to hide," Nancy said, looking at her reflection. She looked pale, gaunt, and tired. "I want to fight." "You cannot fight in a thrift store dress with a broken spirit," Arthur countered gently. "We are going to Switzerland. There is a clinic in Zurich. You will rest. You will eat. You will learn French and corporate strategy. And while you do that, I will handle the loan for Mr. Thorne." Nancy agreed. For the next 3 months, Nancy Sterling ceased to exist. In her place was a woman forged in fire. In Zurich, she didn't just get a makeover, she got a reconstruction. High-protein diets, personal trainers, dermatologists, and etiquette coaches worked on her daily. She fixed the teeth Marcus had always criticized. She treated the skin damaged by cheap soap. But the biggest change was internal. She spent 6 hours a day with retired CEOs and aggressive litigators Arthur had hired. She learned how to read a balance sheet, how to spot a lie in a quarterly report, and how to intimidate a room without raising her voice. Meanwhile, back in Seattle, Marcus Thorne was celebrating. "I told you I'd fix it," Marcus shouted, popping a bottle of Dom Perignon in the living room of the estate. Beatrice was beaming, holding the contract from Rutherford Global. $500 million. "Marcus, this is better than we hoped, and the interest rate is manageable." Jessica, now 6 months pregnant and lounging on the sofa where Nancy used to fold laundry, looked at the papers skeptically. "Who is this Sophia, listed as the overseer?" "Some corporate stiff," Marcus dismissed, waving his hand. "The contract says the Rutherford representative has oversight on major restructuring. It's standard boilerplate. They just want to make sure I don't buy a yacht, which I won't, yet." "And the ex-wife?" Jessica asked, rubbing her belly. "Any sign of the stray?" "Not a whisper," Marcus sneered. "She probably crawled back to Ohio. Good riddance. Now let's focus on the important thing. The wedding. I want it at the Chihuly Garden and Glass. I want the biggest ceremony Seattle has ever seen. We need to show the world that Thorne Logistics is back on top." Marcus signed the loan agreement with a flourish of his Mont Blanc pen. He didn't read page 47, paragraph 12, subsection B. Clause 12B. The borrower grants the lender's representative, designated as Sophia, absolute veto power over all expenditures exceeding $1,000. Failure to comply results in immediate recall of the full principal sum. Marcus faxed the document back. In Switzerland, a fax machine whirred to life in a chalet overlooking the Alps. Nancy, wearing a cashmere sweater and looking healthier than she had in 10 years, picked up the paper. She saw Marcus's signature, spiky, arrogant. "He signed it," she told Arthur, who was playing chess by the fire. "Of course he did," Arthur smiled, moving a knight. "Greed blinds men to details. Now the game begins. What is your first move, Madam Chairwoman?" Nancy walked to the window, looking at the snow-capped peaks. She picked up her secure phone. "Freeze his corporate credit cards," Nancy said coldly, "and flag the request for the wedding venue deposit. Decline it." Arthur raised an eyebrow. "On what grounds?" "Grounds of misallocation of company funds," Nancy replied. "He's trying to pay for his wedding with the bailout money. Let's see how he likes living on a budget." 2 weeks later, the atmosphere in the Thorne household was toxic. Marcus was on the phone, screaming. His face was a shade of red that matched the marinara sauce staining the counter, a mess the new maid hadn't cleaned up fast enough. "What do you mean, declined?" Marcus roared into his mobile. "I am the CEO. It's a corporate event." "I'm sorry, Mr. Thorne," the weary voice of the bank manager replied. "The Oversight Committee, specifically the office of Ms. Sophia, has flagged the transaction. The $50,000 deposit for the Chihuly Garden was deemed a personal luxury expense and is not covered under the restructuring loan." "Get me Sophia on the phone," Marcus demanded. "She does not take calls, sir. She only communicates via formal memos." Marcus slammed the phone down, cracking the screen. "Bad news?" Jessica asked. She was flipping through a bridal magazine, circling dresses that cost upwards of $20,000. "There's a glitch with the bank," Marcus lied. He couldn't admit he wasn't in control. "We might have to downsize the venue. Maybe the country club instead of the garden." Jessica threw the magazine across the room. "The country club? That smell of old men and cigars? Are you kidding me, Marcus? I am carrying your air. I deserve the garden." "It's just temporary," Marcus pleaded. "Once the merger goes through, we'll have cash. But right now, this Sophia woman is watching every penny." "Then fire her," Beatrice shouted from the hallway. "You are a thorn. Don't let some bank clerk tell you how to spend your money. I can't fire her, Mother. She holds the loan." Marcus rubbed his temples. The stress was bringing back his migraines. Suddenly, his phone pinged. An email notification. It was from Office of the Representative, Sophia. Marcus opened it. The subject line read, "Immediate restructuring directives. Mr. Thorne, to ensure the solvency of Thorne Logistics, the following assets are to be liquidated immediately as they act as a drain on company resources. 1. The 2023 Porsche 911 GT3, company lease. 2. The vacation property in Aspen. 3. The private security detail for Mrs. Beatrice Thorne. Furthermore, your salary is hereby capped at $8,000 per month until profitability is achieved. Regards, Sophia." Marcus stared at the screen, his mouth agape. $8,000 a month, he whispered. That wouldn't even cover the wine budget. And the Porsche? That was his baby. "What is it?" Beatrice asked, snatching the phone from his hand. She read the email and turned pale. "My security detail? Who does she think she is? I need protection." "She's stripping us," Marcus said, realizing the horror of his situation. "She's stripping us bare." 3,000 miles away, in a sleek, high-rise office in Manhattan, Nancy watched the chaos unfold. She had access to the security cameras inside the Thorne Logistics boardroom. She watched Marcus pacing, sweating, yelling at his CFO. She sat in a leather Eames chair, dressed in a sharp white suit that cost more than Marcus's car. Her hair was now a sleek, shoulder-length bob, dyed a rich chestnut. She looked powerful. She looked dangerous. "He's trying to bypass the block," Arthur said, walking into her office with a tablet. "He's trying to funnel money through a shell company to pay for Jessica's ring." "Let him try," Nancy said, taking a sip of sparkling water. "We'll catch him. And when we do, it's fraud. That's prison time." "You could send him to jail," Arthur noted. "Is that the end game?" "Not yet," Nancy said. "Jail is too easy. He needs to feel what I felt. Helplessness. Humiliation." She stood up and walked to the calendar on the wall. She circled a date in red marker. December 15th, the Winter Solstice Gala. "The Winter Solstice Gala is next week," Nancy said. "It's the biggest networking event in Seattle. Everyone will be there. The mayor, the tech giants, and the investors Marcus is desperate to impress." "He will be there," Arthur confirmed. "He needs to find new investors to pay off the loan he thinks is choking him." "Good," Nancy said. "It's time for me to return to Seattle, not as Nancy the maid, but as the chairwoman of Rutherford Global." "He will recognize you," Arthur warned. Nancy turned, a small, sad smile on her face. "Arthur, look at me. Do you see the woman who scrubbed floors?" Arthur looked at her, the posture, the fire in her eyes, the sheer elegance. "No, I see a queen." "Exactly," Nancy said. "Marcus never really looked at me. He looked through me. He won't see Nancy. He'll see power, and he'll be drawn to it like a moth to a flame." The night of the Winter Solstice Gala arrived with a bitter cold snap. The Seattle Art Museum was transformed into a glittering palace of ice sculptures and champagne towers. The city's elite arrived in limousines, flashing smiles for the paparazzi. Marcus arrived in an Uber Black. The Bentley had been repossessed the day before, per Sephora's orders. He was furious, humiliated, and desperate. Jessica was on his arm, wearing a dress that was slightly too tight, complaining about the cold. Beatrice refused to come, sulking at home because she had to drive herself. "Smile," Marcus hissed to Jessica as they entered the ballroom. "We need to look successful. If I can land the Japanese account tonight, we can pay off that witch Sophia and get our lives back." They mingled, but the reception was frosty. Rumors of Thorn logistics troubles had spread. People made polite excuses to walk away. Marcus felt the walls closing in. Then the room went silent. At the top of the grand staircase, a woman appeared. She was breathtaking. She wore a floor-length gown of shimmering silver silk that looked like liquid moonlight. A necklace of sapphires and diamonds, the Rutherford family heirlooms, rested on her collarbone. She held herself with a regal grace that commanded absolute attention. Beside her was Arthur Pennington, looking dapper in a tuxedo. "Who is that?" Jessica whispered, jealous awe in her voice. I don't know," Marcus stammered. He felt a strange pull, a sense of familiarity, but his brain couldn't make the connection. The woman on the stairs was radiant, confident, and utterly out of his league. The Nancy he knew was small, hunched, and perpetually apologetic. This woman was a titan. The woman descended the stairs, the crowd parting for her like the Red Sea. She didn't look at the crowd. She walked straight toward the VIP section. As she passed Marcus, she paused, just for a second. She turned her head and locked eyes with him. Her eyes were cool, amused, and piercing. Marcus stopped breathing. The scent of her perfume hit him. Bergamot and jasmine. It was expensive, custom. "Do I know you?" Marcus blurted out, stepping forward, ignoring Jessica's tug on his arm. The woman smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. It was the smile of a predator looking at a wounded gazelle. "I don't think you do, Mr. Thorn," she said. Her voice was smoother, deeper than he remembered, trained to perfection. "I'm the one holding your leash. I'm Sophia." Marcus froze. The blood drained from his face. You are the representative?" "In the flesh," Nancy lied smoothly, using her alias. "And I must say, seeing you in a rented tuxedo is disappointing. I expected better from my investment." She turned and walked away, leaving Marcus standing there, humiliated in front of half of Seattle. "That's her," Jessica hissed. "That's the bitch ruining our lives." "She's—" Marcus stared after her, confused. "She's beautiful." Jessica slapped his arm. "She's the enemy, Marcus. Go talk to her. Charm her. Seduce her if you have to. Fix this." Marcus straightened his tie. He was a charmer. He had charmed Nancy into 5 years of servitude. He could charm this corporate ice queen. He grabbed a glass of champagne and followed Nancy toward the balcony, unaware he was walking straight into the trap she had set. The balcony of the Seattle Art Museum offered a panoramic view of the Elliott Bay, the dark water reflecting the city lights like scattered coins. The air was biting, a reminder of the night Nancy had been thrown out. But tonight, She didn't feel the cold. She felt the heat of adrenaline. She leaned against the stone railing, clutching a glass of untouched, sparkling water. She heard the heavy footsteps behind her. She didn't turn around. "Ms. Sophia?" Marcus's voice was tentative, dripping with a practiced charm that used to make Nancy's knees weak. Now it just made her stomach turn. She turned slowly, the silver silk of her gown rustling like a whisper. She looked him up and down, her expression unreadable. "Mr. Thorne, you are missing the keynote speech. I believe they are discussing the future of logistics in a digital age. You might learn something." Marcus chuckled nervously, moving to stand beside her. He leaned one arm on the railing, trying to create an air of intimacy. "I prefer one-on-one conversations. Boardrooms are so impersonal. I wanted to apologize for the friction regarding the expenses. It's been a stressful year." "I don't deal in apologies, Mr. Thorne," Nancy said, her voice dropping an octave, adopting a slight transatlantic lilt she had perfected in Zurich. "I deal in results, and frankly, your results are mediocre." Marcus flinched. His ego was bruised, but his greed was stronger. He looked at her, really looked at her. The moonlight caught the sharp angles of her jaw, the confidence in her posture. He felt a magnetic pull. It wasn't just her beauty, it was the scent of absolute power she exuded. It was an aphrodisiac for a man like him. "I can turn it around," Marcus said, his voice dropping to a seductive murmur. "I just need room to breathe. The restrictions, they stifle creativity. I'm a visionary, Sophia. But it's hard to fly when you're anchored." "Anchored?" Nancy raised an eyebrow. "By the bank." "By circumstances." Marcus sighed, looking out at the water. "My mother is old-fashioned. And my fiancé?" He paused, testing the waters. "She demands a lot of attention. Distractions. A man in my position needs a partner who understands the stakes, someone who plays the game at a higher level." Nancy took a sip of her water to hide the smirk forming on her lips. "He is already selling them out," she thought. It didn't even take 5 minutes. "A partner?" Nancy asked, turning to face him fully. "And what kind of partner do you think you deserve, Marcus?" She used his first name. It was a calculated breach of protocol. Marcus's eyes widened. He took a step closer. "Someone like you," he whispered. "Someone who isn't afraid of the fire. You know, you feel incredibly familiar. Have we met before? Perhaps in New York or London?" Nancy's heart hammered against her ribs. This was the dangerous moment. If he recognized a scar, a gesture, a specific turn of phrase, the game was up. She leaned in, close enough that he could feel the warmth of her breath, but not touching him. "We have never met, Marcus. If we had, you wouldn't be in this mess. I would have either made you a king or destroyed you by now." Marcus swallowed hard. He was captivated. "Let me buy you dinner. Tomorrow, to discuss the restructuring." "Strictly business." Nancy pulled back, the cold mask returning. "I don't mix business with pleasure, especially not with men who carry so much baggage. The pregnant fiancé, the demanding mother. It's messy, Marcus. Rutherford Global likes clean lines. We like executives who are unencumbered." She set her glass down on the railing with a definitive clink. "If you want the restrictions lifted," she said, walking past him toward the door, "prove to me that you are focused. Prove to me that you are the ruthless leader you claim to be. Until then, enjoy your Uber ride home." She left him standing on the balcony, shivering in the cold, his mind racing not with guilt, but with calculation. He watched her walk away, mesmerizing and unattainable. "Unencumbered," he muttered to himself. The word tasted like promise. Inside the ballroom, Arthur was waiting for Nancy with her coat. "How did it go?" he asked quietly. "He took the bait," Nancy said, her hands trembling slightly now that the performance was over. "He's going to do it. He's going to get rid of them." "Are you sure?" Arthur asked. "Jessica is carrying his child." Nancy's eyes hardened. "Marcus loves only one thing, Arthur. Himself. He sees me as the ticket to the big leagues, and Jessica as the anchor dragging him down. He won't just leave her. He'll destroy her, because that's what he does." The following week was a blur of calculated psychological warfare. Nancy, acting as Sophia, bombarded Marcus with work. She demanded reports at 2 a.m. She scheduled video conferences at 6 a.m. She forced him to fly to a warehouse inspection in Nevada on a Sunday, knowing it was the day of his tuxedo fitting for the wedding. She was exhausting him, isolating him, and making him resent his home life. Every time Marcus tried to spend time with Jessica, his phone would buzz, a crisis, a demand, and every time he answered, Sophia would be on the other end, cool, demanding, and utterly brilliant. She offered him glimpses of a future where he was a global titan, a billionaire, her equal. Contrastingly, his life at home was imploding. "You missed the cake tasting," Jessica screamed on Tuesday night. She was 7 months pregnant now, her ankles swollen, her patience thin. "You care more about that bank bitch than you do about our wedding." "Don't call her that," Marcus snapped. He was sitting at the kitchen table, surrounded by spreadsheets. "She holds the keys to our future, Jessica. If I impress her, the loan restrictions vanish. We get the money. We get the life back." "We had a life," Jessica yelled. "My father is asking questions, Marcus. He's wondering why you haven't paid the vendors. He's wondering why you're driving a rental Ford." "Your father," Marcus sneered, "is a local landlord. Sophia represents Rutherford Global. We are talking about billions, Jess. Billions. You need to stop nagging me and let me work." "Nagging you?" Jessica grabbed a vase of flowers, Nancy's old vase, and smashed it on the floor. "I am the mother of your son. I am not that doormat, Nancy. You can't treat me like this." Marcus stood up. The mention of Nancy triggered something. He remembered Nancy's silence, her obedience. She never yelled, she never smashed things. In a twisted way, he missed the ease of neglecting her. Jessica was high maintenance, and without the money to maintain her, she was just noise. "I'm going to the office," Marcus said coldly. "I can't think here." He grabbed his coat and stormed out. He didn't go to the office. He drove to the Fairmont Hotel. He knew Sophia was staying there. He needed to see her. He needed to show her he was ready. He sat in the lobby for 3 hours, waiting. Finally, at midnight, the elevator doors opened, and Nancy walked out, accompanied by 2 bodyguards. She was wearing casual clothes, designer jeans and a silk blouse, but she looked impeccable. Marcus rushed over. "Sophia." The bodyguard stepped forward, but Nancy raised a hand. "It's all right, Mr. Thorne. To what do I owe the pleasure of this ambush?" "I need to talk to you," Marcus said, his eyes desperate. "I can't do this anymore. The micromanaging, the emails. I know I'm capable of running the company. I need you to trust me." Nancy looked at him, her expression softening just a fraction. "Trust is earned, Marcus, and I see a man who is torn. You say you want to be a titan, but you run home to a domestic squabble. I need a partner who is 100% committed to the empire." She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "I have an opportunity, Marcus. A seat on the board of the Asian division. It requires relocation to Singapore for 2 years. It comes with a signing bonus of $20 million, but... "But what?" Marcus breathed. $20 million. That would solve everything. "It's for a single executive," Nancy lied. The travel schedule is brutal. No families, no spouses, no distractions. It's a monk's life, dedicated to profit. She watched the gears turn in his head. Singapore, 20 million, freedom. I can do it, Marcus said instantly. What about the fiancé, the baby? Nancy asked, feigning concern. Marcus waved his hand, a gesture of dismissal that made Nancy's blood boil. The engagement, it was a mistake, a rebound. We aren't compatible. And the child, I will provide for it, of course, financial support. But I can't let a biological accident derail my destiny. A biological accident. That was his own child he was talking about. Nancy felt a wave of nausea, but she swallowed it down. This was it. The confession. If you are truly free, Nancy said, her voice turning to steel, then prove it. Finalize your affairs. End the distractions. If you come to me on Friday with a clean slate, no fiancé, no wedding date, no attachments, then the Singapore contract is yours. And she let her hand graze his arm. And we can discuss a more personal alliance. Marcus looked at her hand on his arm. It was electric. He nodded, his eyes manic. Friday, he promised. It will be done. Wednesday was the day of the massacre. Marcus didn't wait. He didn't hesitate. He returned to the estate at 10 a.m. Beatrice was drinking tea in the sunroom. Jessica was in the nursery, folding baby clothes. Marcus walked into the nursery. He didn't look at the crib. He looked at Jessica. We need to talk, he said. Jessica smiled, thinking he was there to apologize. Finally. I found a new florist, Marcus. They are cheaper, so your Sophia shouldn't complain. There isn't going to be a wedding, Marcus said bluntly. Jessica froze, holding a tiny blue onesie. What? I'm calling it off. The engagement is over. Jessica dropped the onesie. Is this a joke? I'm 7 months pregnant. The invitations are out. Cancel them, Marcus said, checking his watch. I'm moving to Singapore, alone. The company needs me there. It's a huge opportunity. I can't drag a wife and kid around the world. Drag? Jessica's face twisted in rage. You begged me to be with you. You threw your wife out on the street for me. And that was a mistake too, Marcus said. I rush into things. I'm correcting my course. Look, I'll be generous. You can stay here for 2 weeks. Then you need to find a place. I'm selling the house. You're selling the house? Beatrice appeared in the doorway, clutching her pearls. Marcus, this is the family estate. It's a money pit, Mother, Marcus shouted, spinning around. And I'm done supporting you too. You have a pension. Use it. I am not an ATM machine for 2 women who do nothing but spend. Beatrice gasped, clutching her chest. After all I've done for you. You've done nothing but critique me, Marcus yelled. He turned back to Jessica. I want you out of the master bedroom by tonight. Take the guest room. I need space. Jessica began to cry, but it wasn't the soft, manipulative crying she usually used. It was real fear. Marcus, please. My father will kill you. You can't do this. Your father can get in line, Marcus scoffed. I'm going to be a partner at Rutherford Global. I'm untouchable. He turned and walked out, leaving the 2 women who had helped him destroy Nancy, weeping in the ruins of their own hubris. Marcus went to his study and poured a drink. He felt light. He felt free. He pulled out his phone and texted Sophia. It's done. I'm free. Friday. Nancy received the text while sitting in Arthur's office. She read it, her face stone cold. He did it, she told Arthur. He dumped them. Both of them. And the baby? Arthur asked, his voice grim. Collateral damage to him, Nancy said. He is a monster. So, Arthur said, opening a file marked The Reveal. Friday is the shareholders' meeting for the acquisition of Thorn Logistics. We have the foreclosure papers ready. Do we proceed? Nancy stood up and walked to the window, looking at the skyline of the city she now owned. Yes, she said, but change the venue. He thinks he's coming to sign a contract for Singapore. Let's invite him to the headquarters. And invite Jessica. And Beatrice. Why them? Because, Nancy said, turning around, her eyes flashing. They need to witness it. Jessica needs to know that the man she stole wasn't worth stealing. And Beatrice needs to know that the stray she kicked out is the one who now owns the roof over her head. Friday, Nancy said. The execution. Friday morning arrived with a sky the colour of bruised iron. In the sleek, glass-walled boardroom of Rutherford Global's Seattle headquarters, the air was pressurized, silent, and cold. Nancy stood at the head of the massive mahogany table. She was turned away from the door, looking out at the city below. She wore a suit of stark, uncompromising white, the colour of mourning in some cultures, the colour of rebirth in others. Arthur Pennington stood by the door, checking his watch. They are here. Send them in, Nancy said, not turning around. The heavy doors swung open. Marcus strode in first, looking every inch the corporate conqueror. He wore a new suit, bought on credit, and carried a leather portfolio. He was smiling, expecting a coronation. Behind him, shuffling and confused, were Beatrice and Jessica. Beatrice looked older than she had a week ago. Her face was drawn, her eyes darting nervously. Jessica was red-eyed, clutching her stomach, looking small and defeated. "Sophia!" Marcus boomed, ignoring the two women behind him. "I'm here, as promised, unencumbered and ready for Singapore." He stopped when he saw the two women being ushered to seats on the far side of the room by security. "What are they doing here? I told you, I handled it." "Please sit down, Mr. Thorne," Nancy said, her back still turned. Her voice was amplified by the room's acoustics. "And Mrs. Thorne, and Ms. Vane. This meeting concerns all stakeholders of Thorne Logistics." Marcus frowned, but sat down at the opposite end of the table. "Stakeholders? They are liabilities. I am the CEO." "Actually," the woman said, slowly turning around. "You aren't." Marcus blinked. He squinted at the woman at the head of the table. The lighting was dramatic, casting half her face in shadow. But as she stepped forward into the light, the recognition hit him like a physical blow. The hair was different. The clothes were armor. The posture was regal. But the eyes, the brown eyes he had looked into for 5 years and dismissed as dull, they were staring right through him. Nancy?" Marcus whispered. The name died on his lips. Beatrice gasped, dropping her purse. "The maid?" Jessica looked up, her mouth falling open. "No, it can't be." Nancy didn't smile. She walked slowly down the length of the table, her heels clicking like a metronome, counting down their remaining seconds. "Hello, Marcus," she said. Her voice wasn't the whisper of the wife who scrubbed floors. It was the voice of the chairman. "You seem surprised. Were you expecting Sophia?" You are Sophia," Marcus stammered, standing up, his legs shaking. "But how? You are homeless. You are nothing." "I was never nothing," Nancy said calmly. "I was just invisible to you. But my grandfather, Silas Rutherford, saw me. And when he died, he left me everything, including the bank that owns you." Marcus collapsed back into his chair. "Rutherford, you are the heir? You are the billionaire?" "And you," Nancy continued, picking up a remote control, "are in breach of contract." She pressed a button. A screen descended. It showed the email Marcus had sent regarding the biological accident. It showed the text messages calling off the wedding. It showed the financial records of him trying to use company funds for Jessica's ring. "You failed the test, Marcus," Nancy said. I gave you a choice. I wanted to see if there was any decency left in you, any loyalty, even to the woman you left me for. She gestured to a sobbing Jessica. But you sold her out for a job that doesn't exist. There is no Singapore position. There is no bonus. Marcus looked at Jessica, then back at Nancy. Nancy, wait. Listen. I did it for us. I knew you were special. I knew we were meant to be together. I was just clearing the deck so we could reconcile. Reconcile? Nancy laughed. It was a dry, humorless sound. Marcus, I am not here to date you. I am here to foreclose on you. She signaled Arthur. He slid a stack of papers across the table. As of 9 a.m. this morning, Arthur announced, Thorn Logistics is the property of Rutherford Global. Your loan is in default due to gross mismanagement and fraud. We are seizing all assets. You can't do that, Beatrice shrieked. That is my husband's legacy. Your husband's legacy is gone, Beatrice, Nancy said, turning her cold gaze on her mother-in-law. And so is your house. The estate was used as collateral. You have until noon tomorrow to vacate. I suggest you start packing. I hear the forecast calls for rain. Beatrice turned pale and slumped against the table, hyperventilating. Marcus stood up, his face red with rage. You vindictive bitch! You planned this! You played me! I simply let you be yourself, Nancy replied. You did the rest. She turned to Jessica. The pregnant woman was trembling, terrified. And you, Nancy said softly. Jessica flinched. Please. I have nowhere to go. He kicked me out. My father won't take me back. Nancy looked at Jessica's stomach. She remembered the pain of her own infertility. She remembered the cruelty of Jessica's laughter that night in the rain. But Nancy looked at the woman now, broken, abandoned by the man she thought loved her. Nancy wasn't Marcus. She wasn't a monster. I won't punish a child for the sins of its parents, Nancy said. She pulled a single envelope from her jacket. This is a check for $50,000 and a key to a fully paid apartment in Bellevue for 1 year. It includes medical insurance for the baby. Jessica stared at the envelope, tears streaming down her face. Why? After what I did to you? Because I know what it's like to be pregnant with fear and have no roof over your head, Nancy said. Take it, and raise that child to be a better man than his father. Jessica grabbed the envelope, sobbing, "Thank you," and fled the room, unable to look Marcus in the eye. Now, it was just Marcus and Nancy. What about me? Marcus asked, his voice cracking. Nancy, please. I'm your husband. We had good times. We are divorced, Nancy corrected. You signed the papers, remember? You gave me $5,000. I still have it. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a crumpled $5 bill, the only cash she had kept from that night. She tossed it onto the polished table. Here, she said. Consider this your severance package. Nancy? Security, Nancy barked. 2 large guards stepped forward. Escort Mr. Thorn off the premises, Nancy ordered, turning her back on him to look out at the skyline once more. And if he returns, arrest him for trespassing. You can't do this, Marcus screamed as the guards grabbed his arms. I made you. You were nothing without me. Nancy! Nancy! The doors slammed shut, cutting off his screams. Silence returned to the boardroom. Arthur walked up beside her. That was thorough. Is it over? Nancy asked, looking at the grey clouds breaking apart to reveal a patch of blue sky. The foreclosure is filed, Arthur said. He has nothing. No company. No home. No family. He is exactly where you were that night. Nancy took a deep breath. She didn't feel joy. She felt relief. A heavy, suffocating weight had finally been lifted. She touched the cold glass of the window. I'm starving, Nancy said suddenly. a small, genuine smile touching her lips for the first time in months. "Shall I order a reservation at Le Coucou?" Arthur asked. "No," Nancy said, turning to walk out of the room, her head held high. "I want a beef Wellington. And this time, I'm going to enjoy every single bite." And that is how Nancy Sterling went from a discarded wife to the queen of an empire, proving that the best revenge isn't just success, it's absolute power wielded with precision. Marcus Thorne spent the rest of his life bouncing between low-level sales jobs, forever haunted by the face of the billionaire he threw out in the rain. Jessica raised her son alone, humbled by the mercy of the woman she tried to destroy. And Nancy? She runs Rutherford Global with an iron fist and a fair heart, never forgetting that a queen is defined not by her crown, but by how she treats those who have nothing. If you enjoyed this story of karma and justice, please smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. Turn on notifications so you never miss a story. What would you have done in Nancy's shoes? Would you have forgiven Marcus? Let me know in the comments below.